Good night, everyone. Welcome to Brea, home of the Pitch Lake, birthplace of the nation's oil industry. I am pleased to welcome all of you here tonight, and a very special welcome to all the visitors. I see my fellow candidates, Marsha from Faizabad, Terry Oropouche East. I see we have visitors from as far as Orima supporting Anthony Garcia. I see Laventer East in the house. I see a big side from San Fernando East. Welcome, all of you. Make yourself comfortable. This is PNM territory. Chairman of tonight's proceedings, Assistant General Secretary of the party, Mr. Daniel Duki. Chairman of the party, Mr. Franklin Khan. Political leader of the PNM and the next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley. Outgoing Member of Parliament for Brea, Mr. Fitzgerald Jeffrey, who has given me his full support and love all this time. Outgoing MP for the constituency of Point Fortin, Mrs. Paula Gopi-Schoon. The next MP for Point Fortin, Major General Dillon. Other executive members of the party, councillors from the neighboring corporation of the Borough Council in Point Fortin, Aspire Regional Corporation. All those listening on the radio live right now, all of those you streaming on the internet, friends, supporters, well-wishers, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, pleasant good night to you all. I am Nicole Oliverre, and it is my pleasure to address you tonight as your Brea candidate in the upcoming general election. For many of you here tonight, this is the first time you are seeing me. There's a reason for that. I am new to public life. I'm new to politics. Most of my career has been in the energy industry. I spent the last 13 years working in the commercial and strategic aspects of the natural gas industry. I was involved in negotiating most of the agreements pertaining to the Atlantic LNG train for expansion. I worked on the cross-island pipeline agreements. I've done a lot of work in energy project planning and analysis. During the last PNM administration, delegations from numerous African countries came to Trinidad to learn from our experience in industrial development. I was part of the team that met with these delegations to tell them about how we were able to successfully develop a gas-based industry. Back in 2010, when Trinidad and Tobago was actively pursuing a natural gas project in Ghana, I was part of the delegation that went to Ghana to negotiate with the Ghana Ministry of Energy to discuss the project proposal. I have spent all my adult life in the corporate world. Politics and public life are very new to me. But as a PNM candidate, I am not unique in that regard. When you look at the slate of candidates that our political leader, Dr. Keith Rowley, has chosen for this election, you will see that more than half of us are in fact new to public life. When we get together as candidates and share our experiences, we realize that each of us have our own story to tell. Something that happened during these past 5 years that compelled us to come forward. Some intolerable act of this government that made us say, enough is enough, time to get involved. For me, that trigger point was the state of emergency in August 2011. I don't know how well you all remember those days, but I recall it quite vividly. Every night, looking at the news on TV and seeing our young men being picked up off the streets, thrown into the backs of police vehicles and driven away. These innocent young men treated as stray dogs. The state of emergency lasted for 105 days. During that time, over 7,000 of our young men were arrested, locked up, had their rights taken away, lost their freedom. And all of this was done without a single charge being laid against them. I looked at those images nightly, and I looked at my little 3-year-old son. I felt the pain their mothers must have felt. I thought about how their wives, their sisters, their children must be hurting This was something that our government did to our fellow citizens. I saw this as a blatant abuse of power. It reminded me of the stories I heard about our past colonial oppression. I looked at those men, and I'm thinking about my little boy. What kind of Trinidad and Tobago would he inherit if this type of government was allowed to continue? I recall the words of former US President John F. Kennedy. The rights of every man are diminished when the rights of one man are threatened. It was clear to me then that if a government could so boldly trample on the rights of citizens, then that government is heading in one direction and one direction only, down a road of increased oppression and repression. And ladies and gentlemen, that is exactly what happened. You all know the stories. Section 34, email gate, prison gate, the still unsolved murder of Dana Sita, breaches in the judicial code, witness tampering, the Integrity Commission's abdication of its responsibilities, and the worst of all, the unjust expulsion of our political leader from the parliament. Never before has our country seen such blatant disregard for the rule of law and callous abuse of the Constitution. I bet Sir Ellis Clark and the other framers of our Constitution must be turning in their graves right now. You see, the very foundation of our democracy, set in place by the People's National Movement and developed under successive PNM governments, was recklessly under attack by this Kamla Persad-led administration. So, for the sake of Trinidad and Tobago, for the sake of the children, I felt obligated to heed the words of Gandhi when he said, "Be the change you want to see." And hearing the call of our political leader, when he asked for more young people to come forward and serve the country, I decided it was time for me to step up to the crease. People of Brea, that is what has led me to stand before you here tonight. I can truly say that I am honored and proud to be a member of this great party and to be your candidate. As your candidate, I recognize that the primary concern in this constituency is the issue of high unemployment. This has a direct correlation with the low level of economic activity in Brea. A key indicator of economic activity in any community is the presence of a bank. In the entire constituency of Brea, there is none, not a single bank. There are only 2 ATMs, both of them in Santa Flora. That, ladies and gentlemen, if nothing else, clearly demonstrates the lack of confidence the banking community has in our community. In spite of our 100-plus year history of oil and asphalt production, people of Brea, we deserve better. High unemployment is not the only concern I have noted. There are many areas in the constituency that are still challenged by the lack of proper road infrastructure. Areas inside Cruz, Cochrane, Brighton, Cato, Number 4 Road, Palo Seco, Bryan Road, the back of Salazar Trace, all need proper roads to be built. Throughout the constituency, and particularly right here in Brea, there is an urgent need for road maintenance with the construction of proper drainage. In this, the 21st century, it is appalling to see many areas lacking a pipe-borne water supply or electricity. We have residents living inside Alexander Village, inside parts of Parrylands, in the back of Carapal, who have to resort to using diesel generators for their electricity supply. Facilities for recreation continue to be inadequate. The communities of Happy Valley, of Carapal and Pond Road, none of them have a playing field for recreation. But you know what? Despite not having the facilities, each of these communities still manage to come together annually to host annual Sports and Family Day. So I must say, I admire their community spirit. This is the kind of good community spirit that we have to cherish and nurture. But in many of the areas where there are playing fields, the associated facilities and pavilions are very much absent. Pavilions need to be built in areas such as Bennett Village and the grounds in Paralands and Glutton. Many more of the grounds that exist need to have floodlights installed so that the youths can stay out a little bit longer. Our facilities for sports are sadly lacking. Yes, we have places to play football and cricket. But what about basketball? What about tennis? What about swimming? Shouldn't we be participating in these sports as well? Once upon a time, the Palo Seco Velodrome was a premier venue for track and field. Now this too has fallen under severe disrepair. And let's not forget the little ones. In this whole constituency, there is just one play park, the one right here in Brea. Let us look to Brea itself, Brea proper, the once bustling town of the 50s and 60s. We have lost our bank in Brea. We have lost our pharmacy. We now have to go to Rosilac to buy medication. We have so much industrial activity occurring in Brea, yet we don't have a fire station associated with all these industries. The Brea market is another sad story. The infrastructure has been rebuilt, yet the new market has not yet been opened. Are the vendors afraid no one will come due to the deplorable condition of the road leading to the market? And what about the fish market? This needs to be rebuilt, complete with all the modern facilities necessary to make it usable. Our library was functioning. Our kids went there to learn, to expand their minds. A full-service knowledge library we had. A small fire occurred in 2013, which caused it to be closed down for repairs. 2 years later, no work has been done, and the library remains closed. Where are our young people going to go for knowledge? Why has no efforts been made to reopen our library? We have a warden's office, but you cannot get any real services there. Even the courthouse is non-functional. That also has gone to Point Fortin. But I can't be all negative. We did get a new police station. So it seems the priority has shifted. Instead of providing facilities to keep the youths out of trouble, we seem to be focusing on building places to keep them when they do get into trouble. The cottages on Pierre Road, right next door from here, once a hub of activity. Jewelry classes, leather craft, tie-dye, batik. These have been closed for over 2 years. It's as though the government has made a decision to keep Brea depressed and repressed. Your P&M government will change that. Many of the issues faced in the constituency fall under the purview of the local government system. Since 2010, P&M constituencies, like Brea, have been made to suffer greatly under a central government led by the People's Partnership. We understand how challenging it is for our councillors to have to operate in a corporation controlled by the PP, but not for long. I must commend our political leader for his stance on local government reform. The changes he proposes to make to the local government system, together with a proposed new Ministry of Rural Development, will go a long way towards improving the delivery of services to our communities. So, let us look to the future of Brea constituency. My vision is to take Brea to the next level in its developmental path. I have 2 simple goals. 1, to join the battle to save Trinidad and Tobago. And secondly, to improve the quality of life for all the people of Brea. By this I mean that every citizen should have equal opportunity to enjoy education, to enjoy health, and to enjoy wealth. The development of our constituency will be based on making the best use of our many assets. These include attracting new industry to our industrial estates, our vast areas of arable land for agriculture, our marine resources and fisher folk, upgrading our sports and cultural facilities so we can recapture our great legacy in sports, maximizing the industrial and tourism potential of the Oliverre Pitch Lake and all of our historic oil sites, harnessing the potential of small and micro enterprises by facilitating their growth from the kitchen to the factory, and upgrading infrastructure across the constituency. Your PNM government's focus is about creating real, decent, sustainable jobs for all citizens. As we seek to create the future of this constituency, we recognize that we must be bold. We must declare where we want to go and take the bold steps to move forward. Major advancements in human progress have been achieved by one individual taking bold steps. Dr. Eric Williams took a bold step in January 1976 when he decided that rather than export our oil and natural gas and just live off the revenues, we would take the more difficult road and develop a petrochemical industry. This led to the establishment of the Point Lisas Industrial Estate. Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley took a bold step in 2013 when he changed the constitution of the PNM to the one-man, one-vote system to elect a political leader. And he brought forward the internal election so that the membership could choose the leader we want to take us into the government. That led to a revitalization of the party and a rush of new persons to join the PNM. And this woman you see before you here tonight took a bold step on the 16th March 2015 when she walked out of the corporate world and into the screening process of the PNM to become the first female candidate for Brea constituency. So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I ask each and every one of you to take a bold step. Those of you who have never been politically active before, take a bold step and get involved. Come out and walk with us. When you see us coming into your area, come out and join us. Volunteer your time, volunteer your resources, volunteer your advice. Come out and walk with us. To those of you who have never voted before, I urge you to take a bold step. Come out and vote. It is your right. It is your duty to participate in the democratic electoral process. Come out and vote. To those of you who have never supported the People's National Movement, I say take a bold step. Come out and vote for the PNM. Vote for your candidate, Nicole Oliverre. Vote for the leader, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley. Together, we can grow this constituency into the thriving industrial center that is its destiny. Ladies and gentlemen, you have heard from your candidate, so you know I am qualified for this job. I have told you what motivated me to take this step, so you understand the depth of my commitment. You have heard my vision for this constituency. You know the track record of this great party, the People's National Movement. You know the integrity and competence of our leader, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley. So tonight I ask you, are you voting for Nicole Oliverre? Are you voting for the People's National Movement? Are you voting for Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley? So on election day, when the ballots are cast and the votes are counted, we can all stand with pride and say, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, and it shall prevail. Right, thank you. No time for stalling. Let's go, let's go. Wake up everyone who's sleeping.